Okay, so what we're doing here is we are going to use watercolor paints to fill in our color wheel. Now, to do this, I've got a brush. I'm going to be using a size 10 brush today. I've created a circle on my mixed media paper, and I've broken it down into 12 parts. And you should be able to see them labeled. This is just a traditional color wheel. So, yellow, red, and blue are my primary colors. Then in between the yellow and red is orange. In between the blue and yellow is green, and in between the green and red is violet. Okay, and then what I like to do is just write R plus O or Y plus O to show which colors I'm mixing to fill in the other parts of the color wheel. So take a minute to look on the LMS and to make sure that your color wheel is set up the same way mine is. Now, in order to do this, I am going to challenge you and challenge myself to only use 3 colors. And that's because an important part of painting is learning how to mix paints properly. Remember, this is watercolor, so it's a little different from acrylics. So we're going to start really easy. What you're going to do is just wet your brush, and then you're just going to start with the basic primary colors, and you're going to fill them in. So obviously yellow will go where yellow goes. Okay, and try to use long, even strokes, and be mindful of your lines. And these are just washes, okay? So I'm not using any crazy techniques, just a standard watercolor wash. So that's just normal watercolor mixed with pigment and a little bit of water. Okay, none of the special techniques. And just like I said, to get started, I'm going to finish in on those areas that are just the flat colors. So please, I'm rushing a little because for the sake of the video length, but please, in your sake, take your time on this. Don't rush. You have all the time in the world to do it. Okay, try to stay within the lines as best you can and go for a nice flat color. Make sure that you are cleaning your brush between colors, otherwise you're going to get some run over, and we don't want that yet. We don't want to blend unless it's intentional. Okay, and if your color is like this one where it's coming in a little foggy, I might need to do another layer of water for that. Okay, so my last primary is blue. You can use any of the colors in your paint set as long as they fit the yellow, blue, or red categories. Like I said, it doesn't really matter as long as you're consistent. So just choose one blue, one red, and one yellow and stick to that color for the entire color wheel. Okay, so what I would probably do if I were doing this in the long run or in front of the class is take some time, wait for it to dry, and do a couple more layers to smooth it out. But for the sake of moving on, I wanted to show you the next part. Now, there are 2 ways to do this. You can either mix on the palette, or you can layer. Now, for your sake, I think layering is actually a lot easier. The ones you will mix are orange, green, and violet, but after that, you can layer a little bit. So let's start over here with orange. So I'm just going to take a little bit of my yellow pigment. Make sure my brush is still wet. It's got to have water in it, obviously. Okay, so I've made a really thick yellow wash. It's very vibrant. Then I'm just going to go to the side. I don't want to go straight into the pigment because I don't want to turn the entire thing orange. Take a little bit of red and add it in. Now, because yellow is a much lighter color, you want more yellow than red. You want to add the red in small increments. So I've added quite a bit of red. I might put a little bit more yellow in right now after cleaning my brush, just to lighten it up a bit. So that might look really dark to you, but on my thing with a lot of the light, it's going to look more orangey. Okay. So here's me painting in the orange. Okay, again, I'm trying to be somewhat neat. I don't want to go crazy with this. It kind of defeats my purpose if I go all over the place. Please remember too, when I mix this orange, I mixed enough so that I know I'm going to be mixing in other areas as well. So just kind of smoothing that out a little bit. Now, if you look here, yellow plus O is yellow orange, and red plus O is red orange. You always start with the lighter color. Okay, so I'm going to start with the yellow. I'm taking pure yellow, and I'm going to do a layer of yellow on the yellow orange. Now, it should not look very different from this yellow. In fact, they should look pretty much the same because I'm using the same amount of paint and the same color. Okay, so identical to each other. Now on this side, because red is the darker color, I'm going to do a layer of orange. The reason I do this is because I don't want the darker color to overpower. I can add the darker color in like light increments, but I can't add the lighter color on top of the darker power and have it show up. Once you go dark on something, it's very, very difficult to get the color back. All right, so it's a little bit, it looks a little yellowy, but it actually is the orange. So now what I'm going to do, again, constantly cleaning my brush, I'm going to do a layer of the orange, and I'm going to layer it over top of the yellow I've put down. If I do it correctly, it should not be as dark as the orange, but it should be slightly darker than the yellow. I might have to do multiple layers to get a lot of distinction from the yellow, but that's fine. I can move around and I can let it dry between layers. All right, so that's my first layer of yellow orange. Now I'm going to do the same thing over here with the red orange, except I'm going to take a little bit of red and I'm going to layer it over top. Okay, remember, I want to water it down. I don't want this red to be super strong. I want to just do in light layers because I can add more red layers if I need to. I can't take them away though. So there's one light red layer, and I'm definitely going to have to do another layer once that dries. Now what you want to do is pretty much repeat this process. So again, if you're mixing purple, start with red and then add a little bit of blue because it is the darker color. And then you're going to get the blue. Okay, so this is the purple. Now, I'm not going to take you through the entire color wheel because that'll take too long, but it's the same basic principle. In order to mix colors, the color wheel actually shows you where to mix them, right? So red and blue make violet, and then here yellow and green make purple. Here, I would start with the red as the first layer down. Let it dry, and then do a layer of the violet over top. You're going to do the same for all of these. Layer of the violet, then blue over top. And same thing here, mix the yellow and blue to create the green. Lay it down, and then yellow is lighter and green is lighter. you might have to do multiple layers to get your colors to really stand out. So looking here, over here at the top, it's looking very similar. I'm going to have to darken up my orange a little bit and then do the same to my red and orange. But this is the basic general idea. I will post the finished color wheel on our LMS page so you guys can compare and contrast whether or not yours worked out. And if it did, that's great. And if not, there is a lot of room to play. Remember, watercolor can always be worked on again. You just have to add water back onto the page.